Happy hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever time you are listening or watching this. I just want to say welcome to the second episode of You Heard It Here with me, Talaya, aka the TC Heard. I am super excited to be here with you guys today because I want to talk about intention, gratitude, and the importance of having a great support circle. Why? Because I had a super fantastic week last week, especially this past weekend where I could do nothing besides just express and feel overly emotional of the happiness of God's grace, His gratitude towards me, and by putting the people that He's put in my life and just how He works things out all the time. Because y'all know God is good all the time. For me, all the time. So, the first part I want to talk about, because my podcast, this podcast, you heard it here. The intention of this is to talk to you about the transparency about my transformational journey, whether it's through healing, through entrepreneurship, through the growth that I'm experiencing with my brands as a person. I want to tell you about what's happening during the journey, not just, oh, after I made it. Because why? One of the most important lessons I learned this weekend was, yes, I can be in a storm, but I am not there alone. Yes, I could be experiencing a lot of good things, but what? I am not there alone. And the importance of all that to say is you aren't alone. I'm not alone in this. And I was super happy that I was able to express my feelings the way I got to with some of my other poet colleagues and even some other old friends, and meeting up with my old personal trainer, and just seeing these people and having these authentic, meaningful conversations, and knowing that these things happen and it's okay, and we can all grow from it. But more importantly is we can lean on each other. So I just want to talk about that today. First things first is thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm shouting out the CCAB Arts and Business Festival this past Saturday and all of the hard work that all of those people did, especially DJ Art is. And for it to be the second one in a year, I had the pleasure and honor, absolute honor, of teaching a workshop and being a workshop facilitator. But here is why I'm going to just throw in a lesson, because I learned something about myself this weekend that also my support circle reiterated that I think it's important. So really short story is like I told you guys, I had the honor of teaching another workshop this year. I taught one last year on trauma. This year I taught it. I wanted it to be a lot more positive. So when I submitted all my paperwork for my workshop, my first title was In Your Lane Only, right? When I got my social media marketing back, and also again, this is not shading no one, so I just want to make sure this is clear. This is a fault of my own for not using my voice and speaking up. And if anything I can stress is use your voice, speak up, make sure there's clarity. So when I got my flyer back, it said living with a tumor. In my head, I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe they changed the name, and okay, I can kind of get with this. This is somewhat of what I was talking about. So I changed my workshop from what I was first originally going to talk about, because that was the title I got back. Okay. Fast forward to last Friday night. I am running errands for my dogs and also some stuff for my business. And for the following day, getting all of my materials for my workshop and stuff together, I look on posts and I see everyone else's flyers for the things that they're doing for that day. Because I'm like, okay, great. I want to see what else can I get into? What else can I learn something? Because every time, even whether if I'm teaching, performing, or speaking or not, I still would like to get something from every single event that I go to, whether it be networking, whether it be going to a different workshop, whether it may be a certain item I want to buy. I want to make sure that I set the intentions of what do I want to get out of this opportunity, or what do I want to get out from this experience. So as I'm looking at the other performances and all the other vendors and things that are going to be there, I see a flyer for another person's workshop. And then I look at the lineup that this person is teaching a workshop that has the same name, Living in Attunement, 13 minutes before me. So imagine, right? Me as the perfectionist I am, I look at that and I say, oh God, I have to change the whole thing. I can't do it. And I see like they had bullet points on their flyers, what they were teaching, which were basically almost very similar to what I was teaching. And I always try to think of things from the consumer, client, or even a participant's point of view, because as picky as I am, and my family can attest to this, as picky as I am, I always try to think of things from that perspective because I want to make sure that people get something out of anything that I'm teaching or anything that I am particularly doing, but it's also too, it comes from the analyzer in me. That afternoon, I said, I'm going to change my workshop. I'm changing it again. I can't teach on the same thing. I started freaking out a little bit because I'm just like, I don't want this to be a whole bring it on. I don't want to be Big Red from Rancho Carne Toros with the video camera and a Clover situation is going to happen. In my head, that's what my anxiety snapped in and started telling me. I was going over what I could do with like my partner and I could change it this way, I could change it that way. I couldn't do this or do it. And he was just like, yo, chill. Like, first of all, breathe. And then he was helping me come up with a new concept because if anyone knows me, once I change my mind, I'm dead set on something. There is no turning back. So I changed my workshop for the third time and I called it Unleashing the Magic Within Yourself. And I made the reference of using the 90s version of Disney's Aladdin and talked about how Aladdin was grateful and how he also too took initiatives towards taking steps to making his goals. I felt more comfortable with that topic when I changed it. But at that point, it was like day before. I said, I'm just going to run with it. When people come, I'll just let them know that, hey, this is a different one. That morning I woke up, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to change my workshop sheets, getting everything together. For me, it started to pull together. I don't suggest anyone else do this last minute, but for me, it started to pull together a lot more than I thought it did, because then I made a mocktail called the Golden Rule, which was a gold lemonade with lychee, mint, and cucumber puree and syrup that I make. And I made that and I made it gold because I wanted it to match the lamp. I wore a Aladdin t-shirt with the genies on it in blue, and people started to like the details. And for me, it came more to life. For me, it made more sense. And this is also the funny thing, y'all, that will also talk to you about growth and intention. And the importance of having a support circle is my workshop started at 12 o'clock. Now, of course, sometimes we all know that through the programming of things go behind. At 12 o'clock, I was there. I set up everything. I had my computer set up, I had my slides together, I had my sheets out, I had candy out on the table, I had my lemonade ready. I'm smiling. I had my camera in position, even though my tripod broke and kind of got like some different angles. We're not gonna talk about that part right there, but that was a lesson in itself. But at 12:04, no one had showed up and I felt devastated. I started contemplating, why did I put this much hard work in? What was the point of me stressing about everything that I have in the past 24 hours and no one's even here? I almost had a mini breakdown right there as I'm sitting in the seat adjusting my camera. And I'm thinking, well, then do I just pack up all my stuff and go? Because at this point, now it's about 10 minutes later, nobody's still downstairs. I go upstairs and say, "Hey, can you make it?" I see that the other workshop that was same title was still going on, so I was just like, "Okay, cool, that's fine." And then I asked one of the I asked Omicron Beatbox who was taking pictures because one, he was one of my students that spit that. Two, that's what his social media is, and he's an amazing performer, also to beatboxer. But he was taking pictures, and I was like, "Can you have them make an announcement or something?" So he made an announcement. I came back downstairs. Another 10 minutes goes by. No one's coming. So at this point, I texted a few people in my circle. I was like, no one showed up. I'm upset. I almost started crying literally right there because I'm just like, okay, so what do I do at this point? And it was a pivotal moment of, and I didn't look at anybody's response after I had told them no one showed up. I said, okay, Talaya, you're gonna have to get it together. Are you gonna sit here in defeat and cry about it? Or are you gonna get up, do your workshop like you were, as if people were already in here, and get some footage and some things and get some recordings and get some content that you can still use, or you're just gonna pack up all your stuff and go and leave in defeat and leave with less than what you came in with. And as I'm thinking in that moment, when I tell you one person walked through the door and it was one of my colleagues, I was thrilled. I legit looked at her and I said, "You have no idea how I was a teeny bitty, itty bitty more space. I was to just quitting and either about to just record my workshop as it is or just leave." And she's like, "No, don't do that." And no, I'm here. Like, I'm a little here. I perform later, but no, don't do that. And I want to also, too, I'm gonna call by her name Doll Baby because Doll Baby was key in this, and I appreciate her so much. And this is how I want to talk about how grateful I am for the support circle that I have, and also just the gratitude I can't express for the next couple hours of Saturday did for me. Doll Baby and I ended up having such a deep conversation for about 35 minutes, just the two of us, while we waited for just a few more people to come in. And for me, I'm like, I'm waiting for for some more folks to come in, so at least I can get two people that I'm teaching to. But by me taking my mind off of me and my issues that were happening, her and I were having a conversation, and she was expressing to me some things, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I've gone through that. And I was giving her advice on the issue that she was experiencing. Then we began to connect a little bit over how the fact that neither one of us have been outperforming for the past few months. And if you all kind of know something because about the poetry community, I had to just take a deep breath. I've been performing poetry for 13 years at this point, but I've taken a few hiatuses. And every time, sometimes a person takes a hiatus, you'll have other poets. And I'm not saying that this can be an overgeneralization thing, but I'll just say, at least from my experience, sometimes when you may take a moment, take a step back from performing, there is a lot of just judgment. It may not always be outright said, but it definitely is felt when you talk about, hey, well, I haven't been performing for a while, or when you're trying to get gigs and get to the next spot, open mic, or whatever it is that you're trying to get next to, there's a lot of judgment on, well, I haven't seen you been doing anything for a while. And her and I were talking about the importance of, I had to get my mental right. I had to get myself together because I'm still doing that because I'm not in a space to be out and performing. And I think that's the difference for some people is if you don't have that self-awareness to know where you stand currently right now with your mental health and where you stand in your right mindset, then no, you can't be out on the stage. But just because you aren't on a stage right now, that doesn't take away your past experiences of being on a stage. That doesn't take away the fact that you're still an artist, whether you are currently writing stuff or you're having a bit of a writer's block or you're getting yourself together. And now I'm mixing it too, because when my workshop was finished, which we'll revisit, it was just Doll Baby and then another poet friend of mine, Miss TK. And all three of us were just sitting there, at least for another, I want to say 40 minutes, just talking and connecting with each other. And there was something I realized at that moment was that I'm not the only one experiencing the storm, and I'm not the only one who has felt slight guilt about not being out here in these streets or on a stage performing or sharing my art or promoting like I should have or being on social media. There's other people experiencing that right now. And it just felt so enlightening to have a conversation like that, to be able to connect with other people that inspire me. One, because if y'all have ever seen them perform or heard their poetry or just honestly just see the magic and the stage presence for these two poets of Doll Baby and Miss TK, like there'll be moments where I've heard them say stuff and I'll just be like, damn, I wish I wrote that. And I'm not just saying that. I'm very serious. I feel like we all have those moments, especially when we're watching other people. But in this conversation between the three of us, we're also just sharing the struggles of mental health. In that moment, we weren't just artists. We weren't just poets. We were women talking about the struggles that we dealt with. And how do we get through them together? And how do we lean on each other in those moments where it feels so dark, and we're giving each other advice on how to get through these certain mental challenges that we have, and even expressing to each other how it is to be okay with just ourselves. And for example, I'll share my stories because I want them to share their stories when they are now, when they're guests on this podcast. But for example, I we were talking about how when we go through therapy and sometimes it may have been hard to cry about a situation, or one of us, when you cry, the tears don't stop. I'm one of us. That was me, where I told them at first I wouldn't cry about a lot of situations, but as soon as I got into therapy, and y'all know I love, love, love my therapist. Um, as soon as I start talking to her about things, and when she told me the famous line of your feelings may not always your feelings are always valid, but they may not always be fact. I'm running back again. Your feelings may not always I keep messing this up. Your feelings are always valid, but they may not always be fact. Your feelings are always valid, but they may not always be fact. She also got me to the place of accepting who I am, which is an emotional person. I may always connect it to the zodiac sign because cancers are very emotional. But besides the fact about me being born in July, one of the best months ever, besides the heat, she made me connect with who Talaya is and being okay with being emotional. I'm an emotional person. That doesn't make me a crybaby. That doesn't make me a bad person. That doesn't really make me anything else besides me. And it's absolutely okay for me to be an emotional person and express my emotions. Because we were talking about, at that point when I start crying again, about where I now am in my life. And I'm literally in the middle of prayers that I prayed about and forgot that I prayed, and God continued to answer me. Because sometimes what we pray for, or what we ask for the universe for, what we manifest, and when we don't get the answer back, the one that we think that we really desire at that time, like I really want this job, I really, really want this job. You go interview and interview and interview. Next thing you know is you don't hear back. And in the moment, that's what you wanted. But no, isn't always denied. And a lot of rejection can be redirection for you to take different steps into your purpose. And that's having that conversation of just being able to feel free and be myself with someone and say, yeah, I cry a lot, bruh. I'm a crybaby. I was like, I was just crying last night on the phone with my boo because he did something really, really sweet for me. And it made me feel good because I felt seen. And I also too expressed how I never thought that I would be in a healthy relationship or be in a place where the things that I saw my friends have and be capable of having, that was something that I could possibly achieve too. I still secretly prayed for it, but I always tricked myself out of wanting it because I wasn't sure it was capable or I was capable of doing that, but that was all God's doing, none of my own. Another part of this was then when more people start to show up. So now we're going to circle back a little bit. More people start to show up. I felt optimistic about my future. I felt like, okay, you know what? It's not as many people as I wanted, but regardless of whether it's one or two people, I want to make an impact where I can. So I had everybody fill out these sheets. So I gave them two sheets. Oh, well, one piece of paper that was double-sided. On the first paper that I want everyone to fill out when they first came in, it was a gratitude. So it had three questions. It had three questions on there. The first question was name three things that you are grateful for today. Name three things that you love about yourself. And then the last one was just write down things that you appreciate. Because I listened to my mentor, and I've heard also two other mentors I look up to on their podcasts or whether watching their videos, and talk about the importance of a morning routine. My mentor, who I met in April, who runs her own consulting business, successful consulting business, by the way. She's international, honey. Yes, I want to make sure I plug her. She talks about the importance of every day she wakes up, she has this routine where she first starts her day with gratitude, prayer, intention, and with herself and meditating. It didn't start making sense, y'all, to me until maybe a few months later when I was in a space to really just express gratitude for my situation, regardless of the storms I am in the middle of right now and the storms I'm still currently experiencing, but really sitting with myself and just expressing gratitude just for air, for breath. And we talk about it, it may sound very cliche, but how we are grateful for just being here today. Like, I'm grateful to be on this mic right now. I'm grateful for my support circle because without my mom, without my man, without a few of my friends right now, I would not be getting through how to be recovering during through this injury and how to still feel like myself and how to really take care of myself. And also too, without my therapist, let me make sure I also say, and without God, without my mom, my man, my friends, my therapist, the other support circles I have, and without God of all things, I would not be getting through this current emotional roller coaster of a storm that I am literally on every single day, waiting. When am I going to get off? When am I going to get off this moment of not some days being able to hold a fork, or the fact that I'm constantly feeling numbness and tingling in all four of my limbs, and I can't walk some days. I can't wake up. I feel like I can't wake up and move some days. But the first thing I start doing every morning, I hug all my puppies because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like God has purposely put them there to continue to love on me, to watch over me, to protect me when things are going on. And I love my dogs. I text my mom and my man about to say that I love them and I appreciate them because honestly, without them in this journey, there's no way I could really, really get through this. My aunt even has done things for me, and my grandmother have said a lot of things for me and helped me through this journey. And Without them, this would have been continuously hard. And going through the rest of that workshop, I used the story of Aladdin, the 90s version of, sorry, because I'm really gonna try to have my face right, y'all. So I'm trying to get together. Um, anyway, through my workshop of Unleashing the Magic Within Yourself, I talked about the story of the 90s version of Aladdin. And in the beginning of the story of when we meet Aladdin, how he is still grateful, even though he is homeless, he is orphaned, and how he still sees himself as more than what people see him. How many of us have listened to the voice of other people or the negative thoughts inside of our own head and believe that negative voice that wasn't even our own? We didn't put that voice there. We have allowed outside influences to infect our brain negatively and listen to that voice. But had that happened to Aladdin, do we think he would have been very intentional about going to that cave to meet his goals? His goal at that point was, yes, he talked about having servants and he imagined a better life of what it looked like he was living at that moment. But when he saw Jasmine, not knowing it was Jasmine in the marketplace, that became his new dream. When he discovered it was Jasmine and got arrested, of course, we know how he was with Satan and Sunday Hat, but we're gonna skip past that. Still thinking he took initiative on the options that he was presented with, which was going to seek this treasure. And if this treasure could help him get to his goals, then yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take a chance. Then now, keep fast forward, he's in a cave of darkness by himself. And instead of like, okay, crap, I'm down here by myself and giving up, he looked at the resources he had right around him. And that is one of the things that I love about that story, is because even when we are in the cave of darkness by ourselves, we have resources right next to us, right within a text message away or a call away, that we can lean on if we just open up our mouths and ask. We have a support system willing and sometimes waiting and wanting to reach out their hand and be able to help us with whatever it may be that we need help with in that moment. They're willing to do that. I was able from my workshop to get testimonials, even from people who have seen me perform before. They were willing to give me those videos because that's what I need to help grow my business. There were people that I was able to connect with at that workshop to better help them achieve their goals and give them resources connect them with people that I know that can help them succeed. I was able to walk in my purpose within that workshop. And I felt grateful just for my mind, for my gifts, even though I had to do it with a crutch and then sit down and adjust. But I'm still grateful that I get to be here in this body and be able to share my gift with other people. How many of us are really doing that at this moment? Be honest with yourself. Because last week I had to be honest with myself. I suffered from a moment of imposter syndrome. I suffered from a moment of weakness where I was so afraid about what everybody else thought, and changed my entire workshop. Granted, it worked out better in the end for me, but that moment of self-awareness is now I'm uncomfortable. I'm in an uncomfortable space. I don't feel like I could perform at my caliber that I normally would had I been comfortable, but changing it, still doing the hard work of it. I'm still grateful that I put that in, because at least I was able to connect with more than 5 people and help give them resources. Not only that, I was able to connect with them on a personal level about our mental health and how do you grow and how do you not feel guilty for taking care of yourself first, and explaining the importance of taking care of ourselves first, because if you don't take care of your own body, how can you really be here for somebody else? If you don't take care of you first, nothing around you, anything else is going to flourish. If you don't take care of you first mentally, you cannot perform, especially where you know where you can perform at that level. We were talking about having that self-awareness. And I used my story of therapy because at that moment, the conversation was about us having therapists. And it felt good. Oh, y'all, it felt good to talk to people that you can see face to face and relate to, and other smart, educated, beautiful women also talk about the fact that they were in therapy. When I first got into it, when people were telling me about therapy, you need to just go to therapy for it, go to therapy for it. I felt ashamed because I'm like, therapy's only for crazy people. I use poetry as therapy. Poetry is therapeutic. After I write this poem about the situation or write this poem about the abuse I was suffering, write this poem about the fact that this person called me the N-word at work, I'm over it. And it didn't take, it took, it, it didn't click for me until the moment I got on stage at Can We Talk a month before my 29th birthday. And out of all the years that I have been performing at that time, the caliber I was performing at, the places and venues that I performed at, how many people in the crowd I performed for, the large amount of crowds. For years, I will shout another one of my mentors, Whiskey Girl, who is doing phenomenal things. And whiskey has helped me in so many ways by being able to connect with my poetry. But she had been telling me for years to go to therapy. That was going to help me be able to really connect with my pieces because, like I just said, I said poetry is therapeutic for me. I write about it. I'm over it. We're done. I don't need to talk about this no more. No, she told me the importance of connecting with my pieces and how I need to go back to therapy. But I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll get around to it. Oh, I don't have the insurance. I was filled with excuses because I was afraid of who I was going to be without trauma attached to my identity. I'm gonna run it back for you. I was afraid of healing because I didn't know what healing looked like. Around me and in my environment, I saw trauma. I saw how people dealt with trauma. I saw how trauma was just, that was just who they were. So I gave all these excuses to not heal because I was afraid of, okay, what's my art going to look like? What am I going to look like when my trauma no longer defines me and it's not attached to my identity? And it didn't click until that month before my 29th birthday on stage at Can We Talk, ran by my lovely business coach and dear, dear friend Backpack Jeff, where I yelled back at two audience members who didn't shut up during my poem, and it was messing me up. There was also some other things going on, like in that whole moment where I felt like I was exploding. There's a lot going on in my life at the time with just my family, with me personally, and then dealing with a situationship at the time that we still ain't gonna talk about. But at that moment, I felt like I was exploding. But out of all the other times, I have never, ever in my career yelled back at an audience member and cussed them out. Legit, tell them to shut the F up in the middle of my piece so I could finish. And at that point, I felt so embarrassed because there were heavy hitters in the audience. There was Orville the poet. There was just me. It was like Backpack Jeff was there. There was Doll Baby. There was a whole lot of other people in that audience that, one, I respected as colleagues, but also two, I looked to because they inspired me in my poetry. And I just had this very unprofessional moment on the mic where I just yelled, "Shut the F up," so that way people can do what they're supposed to do. Now, I will tell you, on Saturday, Dawn and I were talking about, she said, I was there. I thought it was all right in my head, but she said, I understand where you're coming from because for you not to have done something like that your entire career, I can see how that hit you hard. And I said, yeah, that hit me hard because a few days later when Jeff and I had our first like our first or second session, the winner circle, I apologize because one, that was his venue, that was his that was his stage, and I just apologized. He was just like, I get it, but how are you going to take care of yourself now? And in that moment, I told him I had already found a therapist and I had set my first appointment for my birthday. And that is the first, when I tell you my birthday, what year was that? I am however many years ago. I want to say at least that was like 3 years ago. My very first therapy appointment with my therapist that I still have now, that's when she told me your feelings are always valid, but not always fact. But it took me to get to that moment to realize I have to get some help. I cannot do this by myself. Nothing in this life that we live is done purely alone, whether it be God, whether it's the universe for some of you, whether it's like your parents or a friend. Somebody gave you a hand. Somebody reached out their hand to you so that way you could grab it to hold on to dear life to get you to that next level. You have to get you a great support system. Without the people in my life right now, without just like my mom and I've had to even grow, but without intentionally being intentional about who I tell my business to and who I keep around me, who I have certain conversations with, getting my therapist to also to help me through conflicts. And this will be a topic for another episode, but I had to even, it took me losing one of my great friends after 10 years of friendship of a miscommunication and something that we didn't see eye to eye on, but there's faults on both sides. And I'm accepting that. Yes, there were faults of mine too that I did, especially leading up to that disagreement or that miscommunication that we had. But losing a 10-year friendship over something like that, because one, I wasn't expressing gratefulness to her like I should have been, but I wasn't communicating. But I didn't get to where I was by myself. Because there are still some things, even from that relationship and learning from her, that I still use today. And it didn't click until afterwards. Some of the people in my life who wanted to see me succeed, even whether we didn't speak it, we don't speak anymore at that time, like we used to, or whether we don't may not see eye to eye, there's still something that somebody else has taught you that you use today or that has helped propelled you forward. I'm not saying that this version that you see now, that this person that you see on the mic now, I'm not completely healed. I have healed from a lot of trauma I've dealt with. I have healed from a lot of situations that have brought me more strife and more obstacles, but I'm not 100% healed yet. And it's absolutely okay to say that because two things can be true at the same time. But what I have done is I've made the intention to be better. I've made the intention to express more gratefulness. I made the intention to pray more than I normally pray, even when things are going great and it's all rainbows and sunshine. I made the intention to be grateful for my circumstances that I have now because this is the foundation I'm laying. All the hard work that I'm doing right now, all of the praying, all of the meditating, all of the podcasts and the things I'm choosing to feed my brain, all of the moments I'm choosing self-awareness and I'm choosing myself over propelling forward for somebody else's dreams or for somebody else's anything that they want me to do. I'm making the intention to take care of me first so that way I can be a better friend. I can be a better business owner. I can be a better liaison. I can be a better resource. I'm taking all of that in right now and setting the intention because I value it. I'm being grateful for the things I have now and making use of what I have now so I don't block my further blessings. So I make sure that God knows that I am grateful whether my lights are on or off, because at the end of the day, I know He's going to see me forward. I know that I'm going to get out of the situation. I may not always know how at that moment, but I do know that it's going to work out because I have faith, not just my crutch. There's another reason why I named her Faith, because I have to always, it's another constant reminder of me daily that I am leaning on faith. I'm leaning by God's grace to help push me forward. I'm leaning on the fact that He continues to put people in my life and as resources. I'm continuing to leaning on the fact that I can't do this alone, but when I now know how to open my mouth up and communicate with someone, to communicate with my mentors, to communicate to my friends, to communicate to my family, communicate to my partner about what it is that I need, but also in that same space, expressing gratitude for their presence in my life and expressing gratitude for the things that they have done for me and the things they do for me, is because I know what it's like to be on the fence of not hearing thank you. And then I had to realize at that moment, not everybody's going to operate like how I am. Not everybody's going to just overly thank someone, but they'll show it within their actions. And now understanding that through therapy and understanding that through reflection and understanding that through growth, I am able to grow and I am able to continue to be able to be a better person. You have to start getting to know yourself. You have to start being grateful for the things that you have right now. We all want some other version of what a better life is, or something better than what we have right now. But if we can't express gratitude for the things that are in our life right now, if we can't express gratitude for what God, for me, like I said, or the universe has provided you with in this moment, there's no way you're going to be able to propel forward. Because if you can't take care of the things that you have in life right now, how are you going to be able to take care of the things that are grander than what, on a different scale than what you have right now? Yes, think about that. Make it make sense. If you can't be able to accept yourself and accept your body for where it is and learn how to maneuver and adjust, how are you going to treat it better or how is it ever going to get better and then you treat it better then? No, you start treating it better now. You start expressing gratitude for yourself right now. Yes, there's numbness and tingling in my hands, but I'm thankful I can still move my hands. I'm thankful that I have hands. And yes, as I'm thankful that I can still do these spirit fingers, even though it still may hurt. Yes, I may have to walk with a crutch right now, but I'm thankful that I can at least stand up straight, because about 3 years ago, I couldn't even stand up at a 90-degree angle without collapsing after 20 seconds of walking. I'm thankful that in that moment, the president of my company recommended me his doctor. He has been my doctor for the past 3 years and done my surgeries and has continued to work with me and work with my body. Yes, I'm thankful. I'm grateful that God has put certain people in my life to be able to tell me something that I didn't know about myself, or tell me something to help myself grow, or see potential in me that I may not have saw in myself at that time to help me propel forward. I'm thankful for those people. I am grateful for the people that He is now bringing into my life and that now I get to be able to make a difference. I'm grateful for these things. And every single morning, I check in with myself first. I check in with myself and then I have a conversation with God to tell Him, thank you for the things you've done for me. Thank you for what you're continuing to do for me now. Thank you for everything that I may have wanted, but you've saved me from, that you redirected my paths. And now I feel like I'm on a path where I'm walking in my purpose. I appreciate the moments like Saturday where I got to connect with other artists and understand that, and they weren't just artists in that moment, they were women, they were my friends. I got to connect with them on a different level, on a deeper level that we haven't had to before. And I got to know a little bit more about them. I was able to have an open, meaningful conversation with them and how we talked about our own growths and our own struggles and what it's like to even just exist right now, but how we got to lean on each other, because this felt like a long time since I was able to lean on somebody else besides my mom or somebody else besides my partner, and to be able to talk to people who get it. You see, this they say it's lonely. What Donnie Wiggins said on her podcast the other day, they say it's lonely at the top, but shit, it's lonely at the bottom too. Not to say I'm completely at the bottom, but even then, middle, bottom, whatever level you at, it can still be lonely. But to know that if I did the one basic thing of communicating like I should have did before losing that 10-year relationship that I definitely deeply miss, but sometimes have to recognize how that has changed me in the good and the bad ways. It made me realize I have to open up myself. I have to be open enough to trust somebody with what I'm saying. I have to be open enough to, one, just communicate what it is that I need. I have to communicate to myself what it is that Talaya needs in this moment. What does our body need? Does it need to rest today? Does it need to just laugh today? Does it maybe just need to escape in a different story so we can be inspired to continue to write our own? Does it need to maybe lean out on a friend today that may just need some FaceTime? Does it maybe need to, I just need to get outside and walk with myself and be one with nature and hear God's message through nature and just see the glories that He has put around me so I can even express more gratitude to the fact that I can witness this beauty? Do I need to stop comparing myself with other people I see on social media and give myself grace for the things that I'm accomplishing while still being injured, while still being in pain, while still trying to recover, while still trying to run a business, while still trying to figure out where my next paycheck is trying to come from, while trying to figure out all these different things, while trying to be a good daughter, be a good granddaughter, be a good partner, be a good pet owner, while trying to be all these different things. First, I need to check in with myself and then check in with God. God, what is it that you need me to do today? Whose life that needs to be impacted today by hearing my voice, by hearing the sound of my voice, by hearing your words that you put through me and put in and my gift that you bestowed upon me? How can I help you serve you? How can I walk in my purpose today by serving you? Listening to that, connecting, meditating, being grateful, just expressing gratitude for the things that He has bestowed upon me and given me today. Doing those things and moving with intention is how I'm getting through this storm. I posted on Facebook, whether it was yesterday or the day before that, is how do you stay motivated? Because, and one of my friends I did my college program with, named Keenan, who has danced, y'all, for the weekend on the Super Bowl and done all these great things, right? I just realized I know some great people. Said it's discipline. And that was what I was looking for, is when motivation isn't enough, discipline keeps you there. Your routine is going to help keep you there. How you move with intention on how you want to change and do things differently for your life is going to be able to help you propel you forward. Now, before I take up any more of your time, because I can continue to go on this all day, I just want to tell everybody, like I said, my first one, I don't want it to seem like I'm talking at you, but I got very passionate because, one, I'm just very thankful for what this past weekend was for me. I'm thankful for the CCAP Festival for allowing me to do that, to teach that workshop and connect with the artists. And I'm going to say entrepreneurs, because everyone that came to that workshop were entrepreneurs, and they got to even shift to be something better than what I thought it was going to be. And I got to be a resource. I want to thank Bakari Taylor, who's also too one of my favorite trainers that's located at Vita Fitness, but also to one of another good friend. I want to tell him happy birthday and happy wedding anniversary to his parents, but allowing me to come to their house and be just filled with welcome, but also too I connect with other great people at his home. and just have great, meaningful conversations. I want to just think how God was just very good to me this weekend, even though I couldn't move on Sunday and I had to be in the bed all day. But that was my body telling me I needed to rest. I just want to think and be grateful. I want to move through the day with intention and gratitude because it helps me get through this storm. It helps propel me forward to remind me of my values and to remind me that I'm not alone and that there are a lot of people out there afraid to speak up about how lonely they may be and the storms that they're experiencing. And I'm here to tell you, I'm in a storm of my own, honey. You are in a storm too, whether they be similar or whether they be different. We aren't in this alone. Even while we're in the darkness, we can reach out to someone else and the light can shine brighter. We can figure out a way out of this cave together. We can do this together. But we have to do the first thing, communicate. Be honest with ourselves, be honest with the people around us, be honest with the person that you answer to or you worship. For me, I have to be honest with myself and I have to be honest with God. So I thank you all for listening to the very second episode of You Heard It Here with me, Talaya, also known as the TC Heard. I want to tell you all to just love on yourselves a little bit more. Be grateful for everything that you have in life, whether how much or how little. Every single thing in your life is a blessing. Every day, as cliche as it may sound, every single day is a blessing. Moment. Tell your loved ones that you love them. Tell your friends you love them. Tell the people who have provided for you, thank them. You thank them. I tell my coaches and my mentors all the time, thank you. I can't tell you thank you enough. And I made sure that's the way I need to make sure that they hear that and I show it to them as well for how they have been a blessing to me. And I thank you all for being here on this second episode and continuing this journey with me. My next few episodes, I'm going to have some guests with me and talk about their successful journeys. I'm super excited because we get to hear from other people on what it is that they do and the intention that how they move. I get to have more meaningful conversations that you all can get something from. Because remember, whatever it is that I do, I want to make sure that you're getting something from this. And that you also know, again, you're not alone. So to level up, you got to listen up. I thank you all. Have a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening. But whatever you do, stay safe and have a successful and phenomenal day. Love ya.